when we start to look at what kind of framing are we going to do when we get this foundation, if we're going to have a footer and a 4-foot wall, which gives us a crawl space underneath of there, and a top plate and joist and a ribbon joist, and that's a conventional wood suspended floor. We can go with a bunch of different things on here. The nice point is it's suspended. It isn't that hardness of the concrete or the earthen floor, whichever, or a tile or whatever. But now here you can't get the mass out of a floor like this. So if you're going to use high mass, there's a bunch of different ways to look at it. You can put the mass down in the crawl space. You can do benches. But again, we're going to have to, whatever we do here, we're going to have to bring a footing down to suspend any kind of heavy material. Like if we're going to put a masonry mass stove in here, we'd wind up having to cut the floor out, bring a footing down here, bring a block wall up so we could set our masonry mass stove, 10,000 pounds of masonry on top of that. It wouldn't work setting it on the floor. So when we suspend a floor, we look at if we're going to put a masonry mass stove, we're going to have to do something. What's one of the nice things about a floor like this? Well, we could put some PEX on top of this floor and put a grout bed and tile over the top of it and have a pretty quick response floor, meaning we can hook that up to a boiler or a wood boiler or even solar if we wanted to pump it in quickly, and then have a nice hot, almost hot or warm floor to touch. We're talking about these mass buildings. We're really never getting a floor up to a place where you can actually feel the floor is warm, meaning that's going to be about your body temperature or higher. If you get a floor that warm in a mass floor, you're going to cook your butt right out of that place in no time at all. With these low mass or no mass floors, we can put the PEX on top of the floor, or we can suspend the PEX below and put wood on top. Again, it's a little harder to get that heat through that floor when it's going through a bunch of wood. But it will go through, we have to do it correctly. So what are the heating sources? So we're talking about a suspended floor there on a 4-foot crawl space. We can also go to an 8-foot wall, your top plate, and your joists, or your floor trusses, and be able to have a full basement underneath it here. I'm not too much of a fan of a full basement. I find the egress to them, being able to get in and out, rather cumbersome unless we put an outside entrance to them or a Bilco door type outside entrance to it. That can be okay. For living space, most of the time they're not very usable unless, of course, we're going to do a half in and half out basement, or we're going to do a walkout basement where we can actually have the dirt on one side and on the other side have the dirt down here. We can put windows and doors in there. Now we can have egress to the basement and have that actual living and usable space. What I'm standing in here today is basically that, but instead of a floor truss, I just have a roof on that. So mine is a walkout basement. It's about 1,400 square foot. So it can have 2 bedrooms, an office, a bath, kitchen, and great room area. Pretty simple house, pretty inexpensive to build. Really nice to raise myself and the 2 boys, and it's too big for me now. But again, we can do just a walkout basement with no second floor on it. Now we can utilize that space quite well. People say, well, that's an earth berm, it's dark and dingy. No one that has walked in this house has ever blamed it for being dark and dingy or damp or moldy. And part of that is the design. You want more? Connect with me and we'll get you those drawings.